Hi, it's Darryl Sittler here. Please check out all my memorabilia on westcoastauthentics.com.
So I'm here with Hockey Hall of Famer and greatest Leafs captain ever,
There you go.
Darryl Sittler. Darryl, thanks for joining us today at West Coast Authentic.
Well, it's good to be here. Maybe I should shut my phone off while we're doing this interview. You never know who's going to call. Yeah, it's good to be in Kelowna. Thank you.
Is this your first time to Kelowna?
No, I've been here. I've been here a few times. We played in a hockey tour here a number of years ago. But then my wife Lube and I were out here a few summers ago, and we did a little boat trip up in the Shuswap Lakes,
Oh, nice.
boat trip. Ronnie Flockhart, who I played with Philly, lives up in Salmon Arm, and visited him.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been nice when we've been here. People have been great.
And where do you live now?
I live right in Toronto. I live downtown Toronto, Yonge and Lawrence, and enjoy it. I still work with the Maple Leafs. Wendell Clark and I do some PR with them, and corporate partners. We do a few things. Wish the season was back and we were playing, but at some point they'll get it settled.
I know. And I know you support a number of charity organizations. Can you tell us about them?
Well, I've been involved with Special Olympics for a number of years in Canada. I was asked to be the honorary athlete for Team Canada Special Olympics in Athens, Greece a year and a half ago. Marched into a stadium with, I think there were like 7,000 Special Olympians from around the world there, and in a stadium of 50,000 people. It was pretty exciting for me to be a part of that and to ask to be a part of that whole program. And so I support Special Olympics. My wife, late wife Wendy, died of colon cancer. I get involved with an awareness program to tell the importance of people getting tested and screened from colon cancer. It's a number 2 killer of cancers in both men and women, yet it's 90% preventable with early detection. So she died 11 years ago, and I'm trying to get the message out to people, and we have, and it's made a difference for a lot of people's lives.
You still hold the record for number of points in a single game. I believe it was 6 goals, 4 assists. Has anyone come close to that since then?
Well, there's been a number of players over the years have had 8 points. I think there's been 10 or 11 guys that had 8 points, including Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux. Gagne with Edmonton last year got 8, and nobody's got 9 or 10. So that happened in 1976, 36 years ago.
Yeah,
and,
wow.
And it's a record proud to do it in a Leaf uniform.
And who held that record before you?
Rocket Richard with the Montreal Canadiens in the 40s. I guess he had 8 points in a game and tied it. And, I mean, I never dreamt it would happen, and people ask me, do you think someday it'll be broken? And you'd never say never in sport, you know. I mean, the fact that Gagne got 8 last year, kind of just out of the blue, I think when stuff like that happens, it kind of resurrects the interest in that record. But
absolutely.
I hope it goes on for a lot longer.
Yeah, I was watching the highlight reel of that game, and it's funny, I noticed the only guy out there wearing a helmet was Borje Salming.
Yeah.
When did you finally start wearing a helmet?
Well, I'll give you the background there. When I played junior, my last year junior, it was mandatory to wear helmets. I played for the London Knights. I went to training camp with the Leafs. I actually asked the trainer if they had a helmet, and he basically kind of discouraged me, saying, well, you really don't want to wear a helmet, because most guys didn't. And there was this image of wearing a helmet meant something, that you weren't tough or whatever, right? But what happened with me, my first 6 or 7 years I didn't wear it, and I was at home watching a game. The Buffalo Sabres were playing somebody, and it was on television in Toronto, and as I watched, Rick Martin, their top scorer, got hit from behind. He's got his legs kicked out, his head went back, snapped on the ice, and he was laying there. They zoomed in on him, his eyes were rolled back and his tongue was out, and he was kind of in convulsions. And I just went the next morning to practice and said, listen, that can happen at any time. I had 2 young children at the time, so I put a helmet on and wore one ever since. And I think it was great that the NHL enforced it. Even today now with the number of players wearing protective eye shields,
Full mask.
full mask.
Yeah. Wow. I was also looked at the highlights of the overtime goal he scored at the Canada Cup. in '76. Can you take us through the last couple seconds of that goal?
Well, what happened in '76, I tell the story where they invited 35 guys to training camp, and Lanny McDonald and I were invited from the Leafs with no guarantees you were going to make the team. And we went there with the idea we're just going to work hard, keep our mouth shut, whatever Scotty Bowman and the other coaching staff asked us to do, we would do it. And we were basically on a checking line with Bob Gainey for the first 3 or 4 games, but we gained confidence from Scotty, and he played us more. And then we were playing the Czechoslovakian team in the finals. I was on that line. Actually, I left wing. Scotty liked to shift things around. I was on a line with Lanny McDonald, and Marcel was at center, and Marcel flipped the puck over to me, and the defenseman kind of came at me, and I pushed it through his legs and went around him. And we had talked before, the overtime period, that this goalie Zarilla, if you get a chance coming down the wing, he's going to come out. I mean, that was his whole thing, to challenge you, just to hold on for a second and take a look, and you might get an empty netter. And that's kind of how it all happened. Put it in empty net and scored the big goal, and that was one of the highlights. I wasn't fortunate to be on a Stanley Cup team playing with the Leafs over the years, but to be on a Canada Cup team, that team, 19 players I think went on to be inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame. It was probably Bobby Orr. That was kind of his last hurrah, so to speak. I mean, playing in that series, he was voted player of the tournament. He had ice packs on both knees, and played in a lot of pain.
Yeah, because, looking at the players, I imagine you could name every one of them that was on that team.
Well, Bobby Hall.
A lot of Bobbies, right?
Bobby Hall, Bobby Gainey, Bobby Clark. Yeah.
And Guy.
Guy Lafleur, Gilbert Perreault. Yeah, it was quite a team. And then they had Robinson, Savard, Potvin. Potvin was just a young guy at the time.
I got goosebumps just
there you go.
about it. Yeah. Now, let me ask you, what's the craziest thing a fan has ever asked you to sign?
Well, I was at a game once with my wife in a private box, and this lady came up and she pulled her top down, and she had a bra on. She wanted her brassiere signed, but I didn't do that. I didn't go there with her. But yeah, that was probably the craziest.
Okay. Any advice to the owners and players to get this lockout resolved?
Well, there's people in that room a lot smarter than I am. I used to, take pride in sitting on the association. I was a vice president, sitting on the board of the Players Association when I played, and I got lots of experience in sitting across the table from the owners, negotiating collective bargaining agreements, and we always tried to do what was in the best interest for the game and the best interest for the players to keep as many jobs as possible, because some teams do struggle, other teams make a lot of money, and there's a balance there to keep as many players playing as you can and keep the salaries high. But I know they gotta get a system in place that's going to work for a long time. I mean, to me, a short-term deal, I don't think the fans would like it, and everybody wants stability, So I don't know what's going to happen here. I know that. I know the players haven't been a player you want to play, yet you still want to feel like you're getting a fair deal. And I know the owners, there's 30 different owners, and they got one boss and Gary Bettman negotiating for them, and I'm sure they're just letting him, and giving him instructions on how they want a deal done, and he'll get it done and under the terms that the owners feel comfortable with. I mean, an owner is an owner. They own the team, and you have the right and the privilege to play. And but yet the players bring the fans in and make the game. So that's kind of the juggling act that everybody tries to say, okay, who should get what fair share of the pie to make it all work. They'll figure it out.
Darryl, thanks so much for the interview and joining us today. Thank you very much.
Okay.
These guys are goalies. I'm a goalie coach on our
right
team.
up in there.
Let's go, buddy.
God bless.
So I overheard you when you were getting your signing with Darryl that you were named after Darryl.
I was, yes.
And what's the story behind that?
Well, it was kind of a compromise between my parents. One of them wanted me to be named something that wouldn't, be bullied or picked on or anything, and something simple. My dad proposed Darryl Sittler, and Mom said, fine, but let's drop an R, and he won't be bullied with Darryl anyway. So it was kind of a bit of a compromise.
Is he a good kid?
That'd be me.
There you go.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Thank you. I get a few people coming up to me saying they were named after me.
So when did you lose the teeth?
I never lost any teeth. Everybody thinks I'm Bobby Clark.
Did you not?
No, I got all my own teeth still.
Is that right?
Draw a Canadian sweater. Jean Beliveau, number 4. So I'm 20 years old. I get to face off against Jean in the Montreal team. He's 41, and I look up to him. So now I go on to have my career to get inducted in the Hall of Fame. So I get to know Jean from some of the different Hall of Fame events over there. So my wife died of colon cancer 11 years ago. The morning of her funeral at my house, my phone rings. Darryl, it's John Beliveau. I just want you to call him. Wow. So
Nice.
kind of neat. As a kid growing up there, you know, the different stages of your life. So.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
cool.
he's a classic guy. Yeah,
Oh, I
he's a
love
classic
it. Yeah,
guy.
Bellevue has been the best. Yeah.
What's your favorite Sittler moment?
Oh, it had to be the 10-point game.
You watched it on TV?
Yep, watched it that night. It was an unbelievable game. They scored 11 goals that night, and he was in on 10 of them.
When you got the 10 points, was that like the highlight of one of your careers, or?
You know what? It's interesting. People remember the 10 points. The Canada Cup goal was big because it's for Canada. Never been on a championship team. We won the Canada Cup. You know, it was after the '72 series, so there's lots of hype to international players. So that was. But when they did a book just out last year, they took guys like myself and Gretzky, all these name guys, and Scotty Morrison did it, and did a page on what the highlight of your career, what was the moment of your career that meant the most to you. Mine was when they put my banner up. You know those banners I gave you?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. What happened there, on my wife was, she had colon cancer and she was sick. So on September 15th, and I always remember September 15th because that's when I scored the overtime goal in the Canada Cup on September 15th. And my grandson, my only grandchild, was born on September 15th. Eh? So that's September 15th. Ken Dryden, who was the president of the Leafs, he had called me and he said, the Leafs are going to honor you and Frank Mahovlich on the 75th anniversary of the Leafs opening night. And they're going to put 27-27 up, right? And I said to him, I said, listen, that's great, but my wife is sick, as he knew, and it might not work. The timing might not work, right? So he understood that. So that was October the 3rd, and I called him and said, no, it's not going to work. Wendy's too sick. She died 3 days later, okay? So now, after she died, the organization came and said, we still want to do it, but pick the time when it's right for you. So I waited another season, and I wanted to do it on a Saturday night when the Leafs were playing the Canadians, hockey night in Canada, you know, because as a kid growing up, Canadians and the Leafs and all that sort of stuff. So we picked February the 8th, 2003. So what happened before Dryden came into my office, and he showed me an artist rendering of what the banner was going to look like, okay? And I said to him, I said, you know what would be really meaningful for me if I could put my wife's name on it. And there's the banner. So I kind of stopped him in his tracks because he said to me, if we allow you to do that, everybody else who has their banner there is going to want their wives or could want their wives. I said, no, it's a little different, you know. She's been a part of my life for 30 years. She was, when I was the captain of the team, I was part of management then. She, you know, the whole thing with her cancer. I said, it's really important for me to have it there. So he had to go to the board of directors and stuff like that. Came back to me and he said, here's what we'd like to do. He said, we're going to keep it our own little secret. We're going to put her name in blue on the blue. You know? I said, no. If she's going to do it, it doesn't have to be big, but I want to see that it's there. And I said, and if you don't do it, and not in a mean way, I just said I'd rather they not put it up, but that's how much it means to me, okay? So then they went ahead and my wishes, and then the night was going up, my 3 kids, my Ryan and my 2 daughters and I were at center ice, and in my speech I said, then Wendy's here in spirit and watching, and thanks to the Leafs for allowing me to do that. And as the banner's going up, Hockey Night in Canada, cameras come in and they zoom in on, and that's their actual handwriting, like in a letter.
Okay, yeah.
So there wasn't a dry eye in the place or across Canada. Eh? So that was my biggest moment. And the reason I say that is because how it all happened. Yeah, the 10 points and all the other stuff happened as a player. But the final point, anytime you get your number, your picture, you're there for it's there forever, and her name's there forever.
Yeah.
You know, so that's my
Oh, that's pretty
that's
cool.
my greatest moment. So. talked about it in the dressing room, okay, before. In fact, before we went into overtime, the guys were saying, if you ever get a chance at the Zarilla, make sure you look up because he's coming way out. So the players all knew that. So what happened, we're going into overtime. Cherry was one of the assistant coaches. He was up in the press box, and he came down, he's going through the dressing room. You know, go have a leak or something. And he come through, and you get a chance in that goal, he's Zarilla, make sure you look up, right?
So you already knew it.
Yeah, and then I scored the goal. Well, right away, the media, I came in, I told Sittler how to do those guys, he took it. So he just let him run with it.
Yeah. Oh, that's how it went, eh? Yeah.
You guys, I'll tell you a story, I'm not saying here, the kids are, whatever. So when she was diagnosed with colon cancer, she was only 50 when she was diagnosed. We didn't know anything about the disease, but we were asked to get involved with a national awareness program in Canada, which the reason I did is because colon cancer is the #2 killer, yet it's 90% preventable. So you say, how can it be the #2 when 90% of the people they got tested? Yeah. So we got involved, we did some commercials and that. But at the press conference I was at with her, she was taking chemo at the time, she got up and she said if she can prevent one person not having to go through what she has gone through, then this whole program has been. So I'll always remember that. That's, you know, that's almost 13, 14 years ago. So when I'm out doing my corporate speaking and stuff, or just talking to people, you never know when you're going to make a difference in people's lives. So this one time I was out sitting with some dinner guys, and this guy's beside me. When he brings it up about Wendy dying of colon cancer, he said, my dad died of colon cancer. I said to him, I said, have you ever had a colonoscopy? And he looks at me. I said, no. I said, how old are you? He said, I'm 49. I said, well, somebody put you and I together tonight because you're going to shake my hand and you're going to promise me you're going to get a colon. I said, this is important. So I leave, forget all about it. 9 months later, true story, 9 months later, I'm playing in this hockey fundraiser in Toronto, and you don't know who you're going to play with. You get drafted by the guys. So I walk into the dressing room. This gentleman comes up to me, he says, Darryl, I'm Dr. Such and Such. He says, I just want to tell you, 3 weeks ago, I had this guy come into my office in Toronto. He said, the only reason I'm here, Doc, is because I shook Darryl Sittler's hand and to give me a colonoscopy. Eh? He did a colonoscopy at stage 2 colon cancer, saved his life. Stage 3, stage 4, yeah. So when he tells me that, you know you make a difference. And this other story that's a little closer to you guys. So I have this golf tournament in Toronto called the Smart Ass Golf Tournament. Smart Ass meaning to get tested.
Yeah.
So TSN is doing a live interview with me. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon, and I'm thinking to myself, there might be somebody listening in the car, and I'm just going to tell the story how important it is, right? So that's in September. I'm in Paris with my wife Luba, and I get this email from Maple Leaf Public Relations Department saying, Darryl, you should read this. And the email basically said, this guy, he was from Edmonton as a kid growing up. I was his favorite player. And he's stationed in Dubai. He's living over in Dubai. And he had heard through the web or whatever that I was going to be doing an interview, right? So he wanted to see it, listen to it, okay? So in his letter, he says, I'm listening to your interview. I'm talking about, he said, I'm 55 years old. I eat right, I train, I run. But because it's you telling me, he says, I go get a colonoscopy. He's got stage 1 colon cancer. He just wrote me back to say thank you, keep what you're doing. So here I am all the way in Dubai, this guy, and so I do it because of Wendy.
That's awesome. You knew their name.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. That's right. But if when I say you sit on the fence and you do nothing, nothing's going to happen. So what grade are you guys in school?
6.
6.
And, oh, 5. Yeah.
5. It was the morning of a playoffs. We were playing the Canadians, the Montreal Canadiens in the playoffs, the Girls. We had the morning skate. Security guy comes in, he says, I've got an elderly lady and her granddaughter come in. The granddaughter, she lived in a senior's home. I was her favorite player, so she took one of those little 4x6 pictures, had it sent to England. They hand painted on this thing, and she hooked this rug. It's 2 feet across by 4 feet. All colored action shot of me. It took her 4 months to hook a big thick one. And she gave it to me as a gift. So she had never, and the Toronto Sun happened to be there, so you get a picture and it ended up going in the paper the next day. She was 80-some years old, never been to a Leaf game. I went up to the ticket office to see if we could grab a couple tickets, got some. So she went to the first game was a Leaf playoff game. But that sits in my home. Something like that means more to me than the other stuff.
Yeah.
Beautiful hooked rug, you know, one of a kind.
Wow. Steve brought me a burger once.
You still remember that?
Yeah, I still remember it.
So what do you think, guys? You gonna let you off for the afternoon, or you gotta hang around?
I think we're done.
Yeah.
You guys gotta sweep the floors and paint the walls.
Shine all the trophies.
That's what kids do nowadays.
Yeah, you-